The Vice President of the United States of America should have been arrested Monday in Hibbing, Minnesota, as a serious risk to the public health. The Vice President, a direct exposure to multiple persons who have contracted COVID-19, was intending later to go to the Senate for the Supreme Court vote, then he wasn't sure. If he went, he should have been stopped by the Sergeant at Arms of the Senate, if necessary, and detained by Capitol Police for posing the same risk. Mr. Pence, potentially a traveling one-man super spreader, should have been, if he fulfilled his original schedule, intercepted by district police on the way to the Amy Coney Barrett event at the White House and prevented from entering the grounds. As should the president, who has today abandoned his oath of office, who has made a premeditated decision to not even try anymore to save Americans' lives and health. He has admitted he has been defeated by this virus. Today he advised Americans, quote, "The fake news media is riding COVID all the way to the election, losers, and cases up because we test. A fake news media conspiracy. Many young people who heal very fast. Corrupt media conspiracy at all-time high. On November 4th, topic will totally change. Vote." Correct. Americans who Donald Trump and Mike Pence have not yet killed should vote next Tuesday. Donald Trump is betting his presidency on getting away with betting your life. He has abrogated the responsibilities of his office and is no longer, in anything but legal form, the president of this country. He should be removed from office by any legal means today. None of this will happen, of course, simply because the president has now declared his intention to let a pernicious, contagious virus without cure or mitigating treatment sweep across the nation he once pretended to swear to protect. That doesn't mean that the purpose of having a government and the purpose of the founding of this nation will somehow take precedence over the layer upon layer of insulation built around the office of president these last 231 years. By any practical measure, Trump is no longer the president. Realistically, he has reduced himself to simply serving as COVID-19's accomplice and accessory. He is at this moment a mortal threat to every citizen of this nation. The team of Trump-45 and COVID-19. In a world where government existed to serve rather than to rule, he would have been on a plane to North Korea now seeking asylum. This is not that world. Nor, of course, will Pence be arrested or even prevented from potentially transmitting the virus to the public. He literally broke the law with an assembly of 650 when local pandemic ordinances in Hibbing limit crowd size to 250. He also brought that pillow clown guy with him. But the idea of a confrontation between the self-exalted VP, which for him might as well stand for vainly pious, and local health authorities and local law enforcement is unfortunately the stuff of fiction. Then again, so is the entirety of the Trump administration. Even by the guidelines of the White House's own hapless, useless, cynical coronavirus task force, those who test positive and those who are close to them are supposed to quarantine for 2 weeks. The task force, like the vice president, like the president, have abandoned us by abandoning their previous insistence that they had or would control the pandemic. And we know that they've ditched control the pandemic by carefully parsing the words of Trump's chief of staff, Mark Meadows, quote, "We're not going to control the pandemic." Meadows has today insisted that the task force is not surrendering to the virus and that only Joe Biden is because he's wearing a mask. And oh, by the way, the chairman of this useless, derelict, criminally negligent task force is Vice President Mark Pence. For CDC and local health law guidelines, Pence is a direct exposure to at least one and as many as 5 close colleagues who have contracted COVID-19. As such, no matter what his personal COVID test results are at the moment, Pence is a manifest danger to the health of everyone with whom he comes into contact. And we have laws preventing such people from just going wherever they please. And most of those laws date to the 19th and even 18th centuries. If you have ever heard the name Typhoid Mary, she really existed. Her real name was Mary Fallon. She was a cook for several families in metropolitan New York in the first decade of the 20th century. She was an asymptomatic carrier of the deadly typhoid fever. But because she herself never got sick, she refused to stop handling food that she served to others. She infected 53 people. She killed 3 of them. She was arrested and detained, and she sued, insisting that since she didn't feel sick, she couldn't possibly be sick, and she was ordered released. She then became a cook in restaurants. Typhoid outbreaks followed her wherever she worked, and in 1915, she was finally quarantined on an island off Manhattan and spent 23 years there until she died, still insisting she wasn't sick and she'd gotten nobody sick. Today, the Republicans would nominate her for office. 14 years ago, a crazed Republican who idolized Ann Coulter, Laura Ingraham, and Katherine Harris sent packages of white powder which he claimed were anthrax to me and 5 other media and political figures. It wasn't anthrax. The FBI and the DHS, who handled the 3 mailings that I received, were confident and supportive and professional, and so was I. And even though we were personally certain there was no anthrax, when I chuckled at their advice that I should go to the hospital in the middle of the night for tests to make certain, they reminded me that they could arrest me and force me to go. They won't arrest Pence. They could certainly prevent these rallies. Those health laws could also prevent Trump's rallies. USA Today now reports that after at least 5 of Trump's rallies since the middle of August, COVID-19 cases grew at a faster rate in those municipalities than before he went there. After Trump's rally at the Central Wisconsin Airport on September 17th, the state saw COVID infections grow by 29%. Where the airport is in Marathon County, they grew by 67%. The president is Typhoid Mary. When Trump first tried an indoor rally in Tulsa in June, officials at the sports arena there placed "Don't sit here" stickers on many seats to try to enforce some social distancing. Trump campaign staffers removed the stickers. A month later, Trump shill and Tulsa attendee Herman Cain died of COVID-19. But don't worry. Sure, the country just recorded its highest 7-day average for new cases, not the highest since March or April, the highest period. The pandemic is out of control, but don't worry. Jared Kushner is fine. People in the West Wing who've gotten it so far, it's been fairly benign cases, the legacy hire said this morning. People do get it, and obviously once that happens, you just have to make sure that you get the right care and that you're taking care of yourself. The translation from whatever language this pinhead scumbag, this definition of some idiot's idiotic son-in-law, I didn't die from it, so why should I worry about you? Happily, if you do get it, you have now seen the White House big book of health care plans, which propaganda Barbie Kayleigh McEnany trotted out for the benefit of Leslie Stahl of CBS last night. It was the size of a prop Bible from a movie, and it contained a bunch of executive orders and a lot of blank pages and not one paragraph of an actual health care plan. And now comes the planned White House event for the confirmation of Sarah Palin with a better vocabulary, Amy Coney Barrett, to the Supreme Court. Just in case anybody missed their parting gift from Donald Trump at the last event for this accursed judge. Free exposure to COVID-19. That's COVID-19, which is right now the real president of the United States. What I do during that is take a sip of, unfortunately, it's just Diet Coke. A little more on Kushner. It's been noted that he looks like every character in every bad horror movie who starts out as some meaningless fill-in teacher at the school, or he's the nighttime fast food store manager, and then he turns out to be the cannibal in chief. He addressed not only how COVID-19 is over because he's fine this morning, he also explained how great POPs has been for African Americans. His quote, "President Trump's policies are the policies that can help people break out of the problems that they're complaining about, but he can't want them to be more successful more than they want to be successful." And on the matter of Black Lives Matter, quote, "You saw a lot of people who were just virtue signaling. They go on Instagram and cry, or they would put a slogan on their jersey or write something on a basketball court. And quite frankly, that was doing more to polarize the country." Here, Kushner criticizes virtue signaling so he can resume evil signaling. And, legacy hire does a racism. Number 2, you are not seeing a lot about it because obviously the election is a week from Tuesday. However, the fact that we are about to reenact March and April and May in this country relative to COVID-19, you already know about. Per my old friend Carl Quintanilla of CNBC, for 7 consecutive days, the total number of passengers on U.S. airlines has been lower than it was the same day last week. That is because the people are ahead of the government, and they are trying to save themselves from that tag team of Trump-45 and COVID-19 by hunkering down. The economy is about to get shot once again, and people are going to die in large numbers because COVID-19 is the President of the United States. I'll leave you with this slightly lighter note. The chief of Fox News and 4 of his news puppets are quarantining after they were exposed to COVID-19 on a private jet. Those who were exposed include Jay Wallace, the president of Fox News Media. I don't know him. I know his predecessors who were all run out of the business or are in hell. Bret Baier, the chief political anchor. Martha McCallum, who does the 7 p.m. show and stares blankly into the camera throughout it. And Dana Perino, who is possibly the stupidest person ever on television, along with Juan Williams, who is conceived as a collaborator, 2 hosts of The Five, which proves that the people who watch Fox can count to 5. That's why they put it on. Obviously, nobody wishes anybody sickness, particularly not this one. I know Baier. He tries to be a good human being. Sometimes he succeeds and sometimes he does not. But I will point this out in closing. I am assuming that Sean Hannity, Tucker Carlson, and Laura Ingraham did not contract COVID-19 and are immune from it because, of course, COVID-19 only affects humans. Good night and good luck.